Hi, I'm Solomommy, and today I want to talk about autism across generations. On this channel, I share what it's really like to live in a household where autism touches every corner of our lives, because I'm parenting a son with autism and navigating life with a spouse who is autistic too. Today I want to talk about something I see all of the time: how people assume autism looks different in adults than kids, and why in our house that's just not the case. People think autism looks different in adults, that adults grow out of it, learn to mask it, or somehow manage it better. But in my house, my spouse and my son, both autistic, are more alike than people expect. Both my son and my spouse have the same level of energy. Neither of them can sit still for long, and in our house, that's just normal. For my son, that looks like running across a bench, jumping on a trampoline, and then throwing his whole body into a 5x5 crash pad. And in our home, that's background noise. Not because we're ignoring him, because we're always watching him and making sure he's safe, but because it happens so often that it's just integrated into how our brains work. Now, my spouse has the same exact energy level, but they grew up undiagnosed. Instead of being allowed to move freely, they were constantly asked, "What's wrong with you?" So their movement looks different. A lot of fidgeting, tapping feet, pacing in one spot. Same need for movement, just trapped in a body that was taught not to take up space. My son is given grace for his movement. My spouse was taught to suppress it. And that difference didn't come from autism. It came from how the world treated them. And the movement isn't the only thing they share. The need for structure and routine shows up just as strongly, just in very different ways. My spouse's routine is very set. Wake up, bathroom, coffee, news, work. Every step happens in the same order. And there are hard boundaries, things that need to be done before sundown, because once it's dark, they're not going outside. That's not a preference, that's regulation. That routine is how they stay grounded. If something interrupts it, their whole day can feel off. My son's routine is different, but the need behind it is the same. His schedule is something we set intentionally. Wake up, get dressed, breakfast, some free time, then homeschool built around his sensory needs. After lunch, school becomes less structured and more guided by him, so art, physical activity, obstacle courses. Then more free time, dinner, family time, bath, wind down, bedtime movies, story time, and sleep. Our schedules are so structured that our smart light bulbs change colors to signal transitions and schedule changes. That's not extra, it's survival. Those visual cues help both my son and my spouse shift without everything feeling abrupt or overwhelming. People often see routine in kids as help and routine in adults as rigid. But in our house, it's the same need: predictability, safety, and regulation. The only difference is that one routine is supported and one had to be built alone. And when those routines break, when plans change, or transitions don't go the way they're expected, that's when you really see how much structure is holding everything together. Both my spouse and my son can reach meltdowns when routines break, but what triggers it is very different. For my son, most meltdowns come from communication breakdowns or things not going the way he expects or wants. For my spouse, it's usually sensory, being touched unexpectedly or having their concentration broken. Little things can become big things when your nervous system is already maxed out. When my spouse reaches the point of coping verbally, that's not problem solving, it's venting. It's the disruption spilling out, talking about how frustrating it is, talking to distract themselves, talking because silence would mean tipping over into full meltdown. That verbal coping is actually a warning sign. We know they're overwhelmed and running out of regulation. My son moves his body to regulate. My spouse uses words. Same nervous system need, different outlet. A lot of the time, I'm switching gears fast, translating between two different kinds of overwhelm, and I'm doing it while trying to stay regulated myself. That part doesn't get talked about much. Meltdowns don't always look loud or obvious. Sometimes they sound like venting right before the crash, and this is where the biggest difference shows up. Not in the autism itself, but in how it was treated. My son is given grace, not because his autism is easier, but because the world we've built around him has precautions, supports, and people who assume his behavior is communication, not a character flaw. When he struggles, the question is, what does he need, not what's wrong with him? My spouse didn't get that. As a child, they were constantly asked by parents and doctors alike, what's wrong with you? There was little to no support, no framework for understanding their needs, no protection, just pressure to be different. At one point, a doctor gave them a book, and the book became the foundation of how they were parented. It wasn't about understanding or acceptance, it was about compliance. So instead of learning that their needs were valid, they learned that their needs were a problem. That kind of upbringing teaches you to hide, to push through, and to believe that needing support is failure. And those lessons don't disappear when you grow up. And that history shapes how I and we parent today. We're not just raising our son, we're consciously breaking a cycle of misunderstanding and lack of grace. My spouse is very involved in this process. The more they learn about our son, the more they learn about themselves, their needs, their coping, and how their past shapes the way they show up. Living with two autistic people, my son and my spouse, has taught me so much about energy, routines, and the way we all regulate our nervous systems. The need for movement, the need for structure, the ways meltdowns show up, it's all connected. And even though their autism looks different outwardly, the needs underneath are the same. We parent intentionally to break cycles. We give grace freely now because we know what it's like to grow up without it. Together, we're creating a home where their needs and mine are acknowledged and respected. If anything I've shared today resonates with you, whether you're parenting, partnered with, or caring for someone with autism, I'd love to hear your experiences. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. Sharing our stories helps us all feel less alone and more understood. Thanks for watching and letting me share a little bit of what life looks like in our household. Full of love, movement, structure, challenges, and grace.